Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Hey, I just want to let everybody know we are on our ascent to 5,000. And honestly, by the time this video hits, we could already be at 5,000 subscribers. But we need to build really just as quick towards 6,000 because this is why. At 5,000, we are going to do a live stream on Tuesday night, the Locked On Ole Miss Shark Tank Live. That will be on every Tuesday night on YouTube. But once we hit to 6,000, we will start doing live remote. So if Ole Miss is in the Citrus Bowl and the ReliaQuest Bowl, at the Under Armour game, I will do a show from the site. So that would be pretty cool as well. 7,000 is a call-in show, but that's pipe dream. That's down the road. But subscribe to the channel if you have not. If you have, evangelize. Tell somebody else to subscribe to it. And if you do that, we can get these numbers up really high. I'd like to be at 6,000 by the end of the year. But thank you very much for everything you've done. I'm Stephen Willis alongside Tom Vanderford, and we're doing an extra version of this Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Tommy, Ole Miss is 2 out of 3 against the A's, Alabama, Arkansas, and Auburn. And that feels pretty good. I remember my dad telling me that when Ole Miss has a good year, they go 2 for 3 against the A's. And so that's stuck in my head.
That's a true statement, buddy. And we're a Louisiana Monroe victory away from being the Louisiana state champs as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because with beating Tulane and LSU, I don't even think people would argue with us about that. I mean, Ole Miss absolutely is the Louisiana state champs this year.
Yep. Those are the 2 ranked teams we beat so far this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm getting ahead of myself, but I think we got a good shot at beating another ranked team. But that's me.
Yeah. There's only one more ranked team on the schedule, so who could it be?
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's numero uno, and we're going to get fired up about that. And this is what everybody needs to remember, okay? We're going to get fired up and excited about that game. We are going into that game with our eyes open. This is a situation like when we played Alabama, where if a team full of 84 and 5-star players play like a team full of 84 and 5-star players, there's not a lot you can do about it.
Right.
But we're going over there to win the game, and Ole Miss fans are going over there thinking they can win the game. So that's a positive step as well.
Exactly.
So Jaxson Dart, I did a video earlier in the week about how he is the most clutch quarterback Ole Miss has had since Eli. And I started digging into him specifically. And he is showing up on lists. Well, he showed up on a list today as the 6th rated quarterback, which is kind of upsetting because he's moving up the list a little bit. But on most of them, like they give a top 15, top 20, he's not on there. So it's looking like it's a plausible situation that Jaxson comes back for his senior year. If Jaxson comes back for his senior year, he will leave Ole Miss as the leader in career passing yardage, passing Eli Manning, total offense, passing Bo Wallace, rushing offense, I think that's Matt Corral, but also in the top 10 of all running backs, passing Dexter McCluster running the football. I think Ole Miss fans need to realize that Ole Miss has a pretty special piece right now and to quit nitpicking and enjoy this.
Oh, I completely agree. I think people, and I hate to go back, but I can remember all these people, in the offseason that, Sanders is going to be our quarterback. They wouldn't have brought him in if they didn't want him to be our quarterback. I'm like, dude, Sanders is insurance, man. And they got him for a steal in the NIL, and he's insurance. And like you've mentioned, to keep him away from Hugh Freeze, which I think was awesome. So, but I don't think people understand just how good Jaxson Dart is. I think he's better than Matt Corral. I think he'll end up, if he comes back next year, being one of the best quarterbacks that's ever worn an Ole Miss uniform. And people need to understand that.
If he comes back to school next year, Ole Miss is in the playoff. Ole Miss, go ahead and set your reservations. Ole Miss is going to the playoff. And B, his number two is going to be retired in the rafters at some point.
Oh, I completely agree. He's that pass he made to Caden Priestcorn. I mean, get real, man. That was, laying it in the breadbasket, and the run where he scored the long touchdown. He was almost running 20 miles an hour, dude. That's just not, he's like superhuman.
That's speeding on campus.
Yeah, exactly. You get pulled over for that.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's a special player. And what I like the most about him is he kept his head down and he minded his business and he never wavered. And while everybody was talking all that smack, he was just getting better and better and better. And, I don't know his parents, but what little I've followed them on Twitter and seen them, they raised him right. They did. He's a hard-working, good old country boy. He may be from Utah, but he's a Mississippian now.
Yeah, he fits in Oxford.
He does. And I'm so thankful that we have him. I feel like we're blessed to have him this year, and we would be doubly blessed if he decided to stay next year. Unfortunately, I think as the year goes on, I think he may trickle up the draft board because he's that special of a player. If he was at Michigan right now, he would be the odds-on favorite to win the Heisman Trophy.
Because he would know what the other team is doing.
Well, that and because they always seem to favor, the big schools, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, any of those schools. But no, yeah, exactly. That Michigan thing's so funny. I just love it. I love it.
Man, Big Ten people for decades is talking about how slimy it was in the SEC, and we do things differently and we're better. And you look at the scandals they've had over the last 10, 15 years, and that is a slimy, projection-riddled conference that just – it's like, hey, we're dealing with shoeboxes full of cash. What you guys are doing is not just against NCAA rules. It's illegal. And
you look at the Ohio State wrestler thing, and you look at what happened with the gymnast at Michigan State, and you look at this and other things.
Penn State.
Yeah, and Penn State with Sandusky, and you go, sometimes when people are projecting, that's because they're guilty of doing something. And that's a filthy conference, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never liked the Big Ten though, or whatever it's called now.
Yeah, us poor uneducated Southern rubes. We're just going to sit back and keep winning football games while you're going through whatever's happening up there.
Exactly.
Let's go to the game this weekend. This is what I consider to be a program game. And no, everybody, I'm not talking about beating Vandy being a program win. But what it means is if Ole Miss beats Vanderbilt, they get to have a 2-game stretch that is rarefied air for Ole Miss football. You have to get there. So this is a must-win game, not because of anything special to do with Vanderbilt, but you need it to get to A&M, and you need it to especially get to Georgia. Because if you can get to Georgia at 8-1, and everybody fired up about it, it's going to be on CBS. It's going to be absolutely nuts. It's going to be minus Brock Bowers. I mean, that is why this Vanderbilt game is so important. And I referred to it today. I was like, hey, this Vanderbilt game is not a trap. We've been talking about how it's a trap and how we needed to worry about all that. No, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to get your program to the next step. So go to the stadium, handle business, and get ready for A&M in Georgia.
Right. And if we do, like I think we will, go into Georgia 8-1, that puts us in the national spotlight, And I know, I don't know we're going to beat Georgia, but I know we're going to play them tough because the kids are going to be amped up for that game. Barring major injuries, we're pretty healthy. I just really think we've got a really good shot on our next 2 games, and then if we go in there 8-1, you're talking about a top 10 matchup.
Mhm.
Yeah, if we're 8-1, we better, by gosh, be in the top 10.
It's
And
like
then
1 versus 8, that ballpark.
that's what I'm thinking.
Mhm.
And what a wonderful thing if we've got everything to gain and nothing to lose
Mhm.
at
Just a
that
complete
point.
free shot.
Yeah, free shot, man. Free
Mhm.
shot. And if we somehow end the season undefeated, I'm pretty sure even though Alabama beat us, I think we win the tiebreaker to go to Atlanta.
Well, even though you need LSU to beat them.
That's what I mean. If
Yeah.
LSU beats Bama and we all end up with one loss, I think we win the three-way tie to go to Alabama. And wouldn't that be wonderful?
It
The last year of the West and the East in the championship game, and we finally make it to Atlanta. And I can tell all my state friends to kiss it when they tell me, hey, you're the only one in the West that's never been to Atlanta. And then I'm like, well, that's not true. A&M's not been either.
if Ole Miss goes 11-1 and 7-1 in the conference and doesn't go to Atlanta, hang the banner. Put another one of those banners up like 2003, because 2 times Ole Miss goes 7-1 in the conference and doesn't go to Atlanta. At that point,
Yeah.
I just don't care about it.
Well, I don't either. And at the same time, we go 11-1. You're going to have to drive south a few hours because we'll be in Miami.
Yeah, I actually spoke with Jason Simmons from Dead Soxy yesterday about this. Like, if Ole Miss goes to Miami to the Orange Bowl, and we're kind of talking in the early stages of maybe doing something coordinated down there, having some kind of an event. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. We need to get that to 6,000 subscribers. So
Right.
mash that subscribe button down below so we can do the remotes. But yeah, that we're planning ahead. And honestly, like I said, Tom, if we get to 7,000 subscribers, which honestly by June we should be at 7,000 subscribers.
I agree.
A call-in show is going to happen. I'm going to figure out a way to take calls on this platform so we can do that.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
From what we came from, that's awesome.
Yeah, this thing's growing like absolute, just mad. And this week I've been building backgrounds. Like, I've rebuilt the live streams. So the pregame show, the postgame show, what's going to be the Shark Tank live show, the Biscuits and SEC live stream. I've rebuilt the backgrounds for that. So it's going to have a different look, a different feel to it as well. And honestly, I like to brag. It looks fantastic. It looks amazing. And whether it's 1, 2, or 3 guests, it should be really cool. So, yeah, what expectations do you have for this weekend, bud?
I still have the same expectation. I want to see the defense and the offense play to their capabilities this weekend. If they do that, it'll be a rout. We'll have a lot of people that'll get to play that haven't played a lot this year. I think our defense, I'm so proud of the job our defense has done. We're 5th in the nation in sacks, and I think we're 9th in the nation in tackles for loss. Mm-hmm. When was the last time? I mean, I've got a Bama friend at work, and he's like, "Oh, I'm glad y'all got Golding." I said, "I am too."
Yeah, we really.
Yeah, I said, one man's trash is another man's treasure. I love the guy. I think he's awesome.
Ole Miss is leading the conference in defense, like rushes before contact. So it's like the smallest number. The running backs get hit like an average of 1.2 yards into the hole.
I know, that's wonderful.
Yeah,
it's wonderful.
Fantastic. It tells you our front seven, and especially our D line. We got a bunch. We got a kind of a bunch of animals up there. And
and you remember
they deserve.
They don't. And you remember Kiffin's first year, when we were battling Alabama touchdown for touchdown. There were holes so big against our defensive line that I could have got 5 yards a carry. And that's just not there anymore. We've got a very good defense. The Land Sharks are back.
Mhm.
I love some of the portal additions they've made. Saunders and the kid from Liberty, Anthony Dejon Anthony. Boy, he'll lay the wood.
Well,
And
he's leading the nation in passes broken up
oh
as a
yeah,
safety.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot of people didn't notice this, but he's the one that knocked the ball away from the LSU receiver in the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
He's a ball hawk. I like him. I think Saunders is doing well. I haven't seen Gaddy as much as I had thought,
Because
but
Walton and Prince are the
yeah.
starters.
Well,
Yeah.
and he's a good depth piece. We've really, and our defensive line is just awesome. And
Yeah.
I think we're going to end up having the number one D line class in the country this year.
Yeah.
Eccles is starting to blow up.
Yeah. And apparently, I was listening to another podcast, like the Red and Blue Crew podcast with Brad Logan and David Johnson. And apparently, William Eccles' mom is a member of the Inside the Rebels board. And so everybody was freaking out about the Alabama offer. And William Eccles went over and watched the Tennessee Alabama game. And the mom said, "Don't worry about him going to Alabama."
No.
And both of her daughters and everybody at Ole Miss. I think he ends up at Ole Miss. That Antonio Alfaro, I might get his name wrong, and I apologize if I do. I think his name's Antonio Alfaro. He was a top 5 recruit in the 2019 class. He had a couple years he had to sit out, and he dropped a little bit of weight because of seizures. He has gone through 2 years. Apparently, he's clean to where it hadn't happened. He's put the weight back on. So what got him the ride to Alabama originally at a high school, now he's put all that stuff back on and he's being recruited again, and he's being recruited again by Pete Golding, and he's a strong side defensive end as well. So there may be more defensive linemen to go in this class.
Yeah, and I'm probably the only person that feels this way still, because I know Auburn's starting to try to court him, but I think we end up with Jamonte Waller too. I really do.
I don't know about that, and that is because we're getting Maurice Davis, and I think Maurice Davis is kind of criminally underrated.
I do too.
Yes, I'm of the opinion that Ole Miss is not going to end up with Waller. Waller's either going to go to Florida or Auburn. I do think, though, by the way, did you see that Kewan Lacey decommitted from Nebraska?
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah, I did.
And that happened like 5 days after Lane Kiffin visited him. So that probably doesn't mean nothing.
Have you seen this video? Lacey?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We have a type. We have a type.
Oh, yeah.
He reminds me of number 4. He reminds me of Reese Cano, like we talked last year. Yeah, Kiffin's got a type, and Lacey's that kid.
Yeah, whenever we talk about the same type running backs, nobody look at the size of them and as them being the same. We're talking about the feet. They have the same feet. They can go laterally at full speed. They can do stuff that other people can't do. They have balance, vision.
Right.
Kevin Smith really knows how to identify talent. And there's absolutely a reason that Lane Kiffin is bringing him back. I'll just put it to you like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah, I think Lacey's ours. And I think we're going to have a very, very, very good recruiting class. I think a lot of our 3-stars, I don't know why they don't have their 4-star yet. We've got tons of talent in this class. So we're doing well. We're doing well.
And I haven't really been looking around because we got to start thinking about the portal about right now. Everybody needs to spend November looking at like these mid-major schools. Whenever you're watching Liberty play and these Conference USA schools and Sunbelt schools, you probably need to pay attention to who the best players are on the field, because Ole Miss is going to go out and get a couple of them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've been watching some of these, Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday night games with the Sun Belt and the MAC and Conference USA. They got some good players, man. They got some dudes.
They really do.
Yeah. So, I'm really looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, Trey Harris was at Louisiana Tech last year.
Yeah.
That's all anybody needs to know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Tommy, thank you so much for joining us, man. We'll talk to you next week, bud.
Oh, yes, sir. By the way, my prediction.
Oh, yes.
Ole Miss 42, Vandy 14.
I went with 41-14.
Hey,
Yeah.
Great minds think alike.
Exactly. Anyway, you have a good time. Are you going to the game?
No, sir. I've got some stuff that's came up that I got to take care of the next few weekends here at home.
Okay. Well, enjoy it either way.
Yes, sir.
All right. Take care, Tom.
Yes, sir. Hotty toddy.
Hotty toddy.